Hey guys, Steve here. Supposed to be recording with Paul and Jeff from Jeff's Cave of Cool Books. Actually running a little late. I heard something out here. Go!
Unfortunately, he's no longer with us because, chain smoking will kill you. But his design sense, he was really big into like that modern look of like the 50s and early 60s, where everything was like streamlined and
You all right, Steve? What's going on?
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. There was it's like I heard something outside. I had to go check it out. It was like a howling.
On that note, I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
I'm Jeff.
Yes.
Check your shelf.
All right, well, guys, we're not even going to pretend that we haven't done this before. We had some technical issues last time we got together, and short of throwing my laptop out the window, we just decided to talk again. The upside is we get to hang out with Jeff for a while.
The other upside is we decided that we're going to do it exactly word for word, the same way we did it last week when we recorded. So I hope you guys have memorized what you said.
This is totally scripted.
Yes.
But this week, Jeff wanted to discuss. He wanted to participate in the dead of winter, and he brought up a while back. He brought up James Blish's "There Shall Be No Darkness," and we managed to track down copies of it, and we're gonna talk about it. But before we do all that, Jeff, why don't you let people know who don't know you what your channel is about? What's your channel?
Well, as you know, well, maybe you don't. Naming channels is hard. So naming a channel. So I went through a lot of different names, and I thought, well, this is what I euphemistically call my man cave. So Jeff's Cave of Cool Books sounded like good enough
That's a
title.
cool name.
So I just talk about a whole bunch of different stuff that I have. I like a lot of different genres, mostly pulp fiction or genre fiction, nothing too mainstream. I probably will talk about a classic once in a while if I ever get to one. But I thought I saw some other people doing this kind of thing, talking about especially stuff like Robert E. Howard, Edgar Rice Burroughs and stuff, Doc Savage. And I said, I can do that. I know a bit about that stuff. So I just make some videos either showing off what my collection is, what I have here, what I'm reading, and just kind of stumbling through, and it's going pretty well so far. So
it's going really well so far.
Yeah,
really well.
Yeah, and we started our channels about the same time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
and I remember watching your videos, going, "How long has he been doing this? He's better than we are." And turns out, no, we got started about the same time.
Well, thanks. I definitely don't know about that, but I had a little bit of practice, with being a teacher, I guess, and staring at the camera. Although I don't often stare at the camera when I'm doing these kind of recordings or live streams, I'm looking at your guys' faces on the screen, so I should be looking at the camera better. Hello, camera. But usually I'm, I got a little head start that way, I suppose. But as far as being it took me a while to get comfortable again, and to even know what the hell I'm doing. And the editing part's been the uphill climb, but I'm getting up to it pretty well.
Yeah, editing is a learning curve.
I'd love to hear what other people do, because I've noticed some people, and I made a decision because I was trying to look at the camera, right? But if I'm talking to the audience, like I am right now, listen, audience, I look at the camera and I even, is it called gesticulating? I don't know why that sounds dirty, but anyway, I do the hand motions toward the camera. If I'm talking to you guys, I actually look at the screen because I think it gives a visual of I'm now looking, especially if somebody's showing something, like showing a book or something. You know, it's kind of like, oh, look at me. I'm looking at the book along with the audience. I've probably thought about this way more than anybody, and I don't think my conclusion's any better than anybody else's, but it would be interesting to see what people try to do. So you try to look at the camera, you're saying, Jeff?
I do kind of when I'm recording on my phone. I have a harder time with the webcam. So I got the webcam perched up on the top here. That's external webcam because it's higher quality than the one that's in my computer. And I always forget to look into the screen, generally speaking, but because I'm looking at you guys, you know, or whoever I'm talking to. I don't think it really matters much. The thing that I don't ever really catch people doing different things, really. Yeah. Unless they're obviously reading subtitles. Like I did an experiment where they have the crawl. You have the subtitles or whatever, and reading off the computer, but I'm like, what? So I just go off, and then I just fix it in editing because I'm always messing up. So I just snip this part and snip that part. And that's why sometimes it looks a little jerky in my videos.
You may be asking yourself,
the patina.
You may be asking yourself, why is Steve and Paul asking these questions? This has nothing to do with James Blish.
And you'd be right.
And you'd be right about that. I did. The copy Paul sent me was in this. It's called The Magazine of Horror. And I was able to get a PDF on my phone. And that's where I read it. Do you have a copy of it, Jeff?
I do. I have actually two. The original I read it in is in this now beat up dust jacket cover of this Bill Pronzini werewolf collection.
That's glorious.
Look at this subtitle: A Crestomathy of Lycanthropy.
Man,
that rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? But
Crestomathy, you just met me. I don't even know what a Christoph for me.
Crestomathy. Can you guys read that? I'm not sure if you can see it.
A Crestomathy could walk up and bite me in the neck, and I wouldn't even know what it was. I'd be like, what the?
But when I read it for this conversation, I read it out of the Best of James Blish. And the fact that we're re-recording is maybe good because I think in the previous one, I made the mistake of saying he was a British author. He was not. He was an American author. But he moved to the UK. He didn't live very long, poor guy. He was, he died at age 54 from lung cancer. So another one of the writers and people who probably chain smoked and didn't last very long.
But like
he was quite
Rogers
prolific.
Lasney's another one.
Yeah. And he's predominantly known, of course, as a science fiction writer. And we'll get into that with the story because this is technically a werewolf yarn, a horror story. But he has plenty of attempts, anyway, of explaining lycanthropy away in science fictional terms, I guess.
Yes.
So how about you, Paul? Did you encounter this story before? I know we both have seen the film that's based off of this, The Beast Must Die from Amicus.
Yeah. In fact, no, I've never actually read this story until doing this video. But I was going to reread the story, to prepare for the show again. But I ended up with this cold that knocked me on my ass for about 3 days. So I couldn't even focus enough to read. So I did find The Beast Must Die on Amazon Prime, and I watched it. So I'm gonna try not to.
I haven't seen it in a while.
So
I watched part of it. I got through about the first 25% of it. and then something happened. I didn't DNR it, or is it DNW? I didn't.
DNW did not watch.
I did not DNW it.
It's a not right now. Huh?
It's just that I ran out of time. I think it was bedtime or something. I don't know.
Well, did you guys notice, having read the story recently, how, from what I remember, it doesn't follow the story particularly closely, other than in a couple of aspects. It really pumps up.
Yeah, it turned Newcliffe into basically like the dude from The Most Dangerous Game.
Right.
And his whole raison d'etre was he's killed everything, so he's got to kill a werewolf.
You know what it did?
He was obsessed with running everywhere. I noticed he ran everywhere.
What it did for me was it harkened back to a time when, if you wanted to make a movie and you were inspired by a book and you wanted to make a movie inspired by the book, you went ahead and called the movie something else if it didn't exactly follow the book. Now it seems like kids these days, they want to make a movie, they want to buy the rights to a book, make a movie. The movie doesn't really follow the book very well at all, but I'm talking about,
they want the title.
I'm talking about World War Z, okay? If anybody's wondering, if anybody's read World War Z and then watched the movie, you're like, why? Just make your own movie. Make a movie, call it something else. Anyway, so it harkened back to that. Like, they named it something different, even though they were inspired by There Will Be Darkness.
Yeah. And the movie's real saving grace is Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing.
Anytime.
He's most horror movies saving grace when he's in them, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, Steve, you want to tell us the story of the actual story, or novelette, I guess we would say. It's about 40 pages in this thing, so it's a hefty enough story. So there's enough.
I thought we settled on noveletta.
Noveletta, that's right.
Like which sounds like a pasta. Like, yeah, you got to use that noveletta with that cream sauce.
Noveletta. I want a little noveletta.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though.
Get the cheap olive oil. Get the Noveletta olive oil.
I've been waiting all day to make the following joke. Welcome once again to stately Newcliffe Manor, where Balloon Horse and I are going to talk about There Will Be Darkness, werewolves. Balloon
you need
Horse.
a little stuffed dog in the back there.
Yeah, it's true.
Or Yarmakoski and I will be talking about.
Yeah. That's an homage to anybody who's wondering. I've been watching a lot of Michael's videos lately. I was trying to find the first one where Roger appears, and it got me down a rabbit hole watching 3-year-old. He did the Scarlet Letter.
I did the same thing. It was quite a while before he introduced Roger. He told a little bit of the backstory of that on the Eves he did there.
Oh, okay.
Core, where he said he found him on the side of the road or something. I think that was the other one, Future Roger. Anyway, sorry, Steve.
If anybody wonders like why he's so good, I would say go watch the Scarlet Letter video, because the way it's a classic, and it's written, the prose is so, like, it took me a while to get into it, because I was just like, what is it's like somebody from the 16th century wrote it, even though Hawthorne wrote it, obviously much later than that. But the way he describes it, it's like he's describing a pulp novel. It's just really fun.
But
there's a reason why he's successful. Yeah,
you may be asking yourself, what does any of this have to do with a werewolf? Well, I'm about to tell you. We're in the Scottish countryside, where we're at the manor of this Newcliffe fella, and he's a rich dude, wife. There's a novelist, there's a painter, there's a pianist, and a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And
there's a critic there too, right?
And a critic, yes. A critic.
Yeah.
Everyone's a critic. Not in this case. There are more werewolves than critics. So it turns out that the pianist, our Paul Foote, who is the painter, is he the painter?
Yeah, no, he's a painter. Yeah, he's a painter.
Yeah, he's a painter. And when I first read the story, I'm like thinking like he paints houses, and I'm like, no, wait, he's a painter. Like
that's
fine art.
Friend Paul, who used to paint houses.
Yeah,
and he's drunk off his ass. So our hero is Paul Foote, the artist, and he's quite tight, as they would say it in the vernacular of the day.
He's pissed, as they would say it in England.
Yes.
And
And he's watching this guy play piano.
he sees that his fingers are the same length, and like maybe he
the
shaves
index
his
and
palms.
the middle finger are the same length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he notices that his ears are pointy, and he calls it the vestigial point. And I'm like, the vestigial point. Do I have a vestigial point? Where's my vestigial point?
Yeah,
I
we
know
should say at this point that James Blish, I don't want to say overwrites this story, but let's just say because it's nicely written, but he is using every word in the vocabulary book.
Yeah, I had to look up a lot of words. I knew what vestigial meant.
Yes.
Then he, he's like, I think this guy might be a werewolf. And now I'm reading this story thinking, I think this is going to be a story about nobody believes him that this guy's a werewolf. But it took less than like 5 pages for him to convince everybody that, yeah, this guy's a werewolf. So that's given up pretty early in the story.
So this Jan Yarmakowski, or however we pronounce his name, we assume he's European. I don't think we get his background necessarily. Maybe he's Dutch or Norwegian or German. I don't know.
I know there was some talk of like him not being able to return to Poland or something like that.
Oh, he Poland. Okay, that makes sense. With the
that sounds like a Polish name. Jan Yarmakowski. Yeah, that's
Yarmakowski.
Yeah.
And he's tall and angular, and there's a woman that's besotted with him. What is her name again? Doris. Thank you.
Doris.
Yes. Of course, she's beautiful. And Newcliffe's wife is beautiful, and the rest of the guys are just normal guys, I guess. But I don't know about you guys. I got the feeling almost that Paul Foote came to this house party kind of suspecting that Jan was a werewolf. It seemed, or did you get the feeling it just kind of came to him during this drunken haze? I'm not quite sure what the impression
It came to him when the way I read it was because at first, it's front loaded, starts out really fast, and you're like, well, this dude's just hell bent that somebody in this room is a werewolf, And I'm like, what? Why would you even say that? But then later on in the story, if I'm remembering it correctly, they're having a discussion, and he brings up stuff that happened before the story started that got him like thinking maybe this guy's a werewolf.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, because one of the other characters, is it Carl Lundgren? Lundgren is this psychologist who apparently gave a big talk in Europe on werewolfism.
Oh yeah, that was his thesis basically for his PhD or whatever was paper on werewolves, werewolfism, lycanthropy.
And Foote wants to kind of out Jan kind of publicly, I guess. And Lundgren at first is like, I don't know what you're talking about, sort of thing. Yeah. And so Foote goes up to his room and then decides he's going to, I don't know about you guys. Would you, if you think a guy's a werewolf, would you sneak into his room to confront him? I don't think most people would, but that's what
I would run so fast to my car or horse and buggy or whatever they had at the time. And
we should mention this. This estate is vast and it's covered in snow and it's remote. Apparently, there's a village of several miles away or something.
I'd be running to my one-horse open sleigh and I'd be slaying my ass out of there.
So like Paul mentions, within a few pages, Foote's confronted. I mean, first he's watching him, Jan, go outside and kind of breathe in the air, and the dogs are the dogs that, because the guy who's hosting this party, Newsom, am I remembering this right? Right, yeah.
Newcliffe.
Sorry,
Newcliffe.
Sorry, Newcliffe, is a big game hunter, a rich guy. He's got a pack of dogs that he goes hunting with, I guess, and his wife also goes with him. His beautiful vacant trophy wife,
Sharpshooter.
Carolyn is a great shot as well. And so there are these dogs that have reacted to Jan, and Foote's caught all of this stuff. And so he basically confronts Jan in his room, and Jan turns into a werewolf and attacks.
Even Jan is like, listen,
dude, really?
I'm not a werewolf. Like, he's still hiding. He's like, I'm not a werewolf, but if I were, do you think this is a good idea?
And then all of a sudden Foote's like, oh crap.
Yeah. And then of course Jan is finally like, all right, screw it. You're right, you got me. And turns into a werewolf and escapes somehow.
Well, yeah, he starts to attack. He's going to attack Foot, and Foot would have been toast. But luckily, somehow, Doris, this woman who's been pining for Jan, and that he says, "Get me something in silver," and somehow she finds a silver candlestick, and he brandishes it at the wolf, and Jan disappears.
Yeah.
Well,
out the window
is that the point at which he not embraces but touches Doris, holds her hand? Did
right.
that happen
sooner? That came when Foot was waiting in the wings. Kind of, I think he's in Jan's room then, and he's kind of listening in to this conversation where Jan is expressing interest in Doris now.
Yeah.
And then he sees her palm and freaks out and leaves.
Yep.
And then goes into his room.
And they have a bit of a history, the werewolf and Doris.
Bit of a creepy history.
Apparently, when he was at his
standards,
he was an adult when she was 11, and she had a crush on him, which, that's cool, schoolgirl crush. There's nothing weird about that. The weird part is that he's like, oh, well, but now you're old enough.
Yeah.
I know you had a crush on me back then, but now you're old enough. Now, I'm not saying it's illegal or anything, but
yeah, earlier in the drunken haze at the party when he's playing the piano and Foot is apparently everyone's aware that Doris isn't, or at least Foot is saying she's infatuated with him still, and they had a past. And so you think, okay, yeah, maybe that they were in school together or something, and then you realize, well, not quite. She was in school, maybe. But
I think there was one point at which didn't Foot
in
at
the
one
building.
point say, this Jan guy, he's not that good looking, but he is really good at piano and muscular or something like that.
well, he's kind of one of those guys that's not good looking exactly, but striking and charismatic, I guess. It's kind of the impression I got.
Well,
That's
guys
how I
like
describe
that,
myself.
guys like
He had a
us,
certain animal magnetism.
what we lack in good looks, we make up for in charm.
That's right.
Hey, hang on a second, guys. I'm going to turn. It's getting really dark in here.
Yeah, I was going to say,
You getting scared?
Paul's already out there hunting for the werewolf.
That's right.
Well, my understanding, Steve, is that you haven't read a lot of or watched much stuff about werewolves. So this was kind of one of your early introductions to werewolf fiction. So
yeah, absolutely.
This story kind of plays with the tropes as well as makes some of its own stuff.
It did. What it did for me. Well, okay. I grew up with the Lon Chaney werewolf, right? In the Michael J. Fox.
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf, So I didn't really get a good, and of course, the Lon Chaney werewolf. It'd be really embarrassing if it wasn't Lon Chaney. I would assume you guys would have corrected me by now. But
it's Lon Chaney Jr. Yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But it was a man with a werewolf mask, right?
With some yak hair on, yeah.
Yeah, and so reading this, I think I had seen, was it Altered States? What was the one where somebody turned into a wolf? I forget. Anyway,
there's quite a few, but
yeah,
maybe narrow it down a little bit.
There was a movie where somebody turned into a wolf, and it was like an actual wolf, and I was like, well, that's not a werewolf. And it's like, well, how would the lore actually go? Would it be like I saw a dude with a really full beard and eyebrows, and so I assumed he was a wolf? Or would it be more like I saw a really big wolf and it didn't seem like a regular wolf? It seemed really dangerous. And you know what? I never see George around when that wolf shows up. George the next day always seems tired and his clothes are ripped.
Paul was saying that the man wolf sort of look from the Universal movies was an invention of that time, right? For those movies.
Yeah, it was an invention of, and then set the standard for a long time. But to answer Steve's question about werewolves, the shapes and sizes, when we were in elementary school, our library had this little book, and this little book was all about werewolves. And in the back of the in the back of the book, there was a how to become a werewolf, and it had to do with like you basically make a cauldron and you basically sell your soul to Satan, and not one of us that found that book didn't try that experiment, and to the best of my knowledge, none of us are werewolves. Now, to answer your question though, Steve, there's so many different varieties of wolf hybrids, people just two. There's all kinds of different varieties of them. So,
Well, there's
but Universal
really-
sure set the standard.
Yeah, and some people are, and I guess I have to confess, for the movie of this, The Beast Must Die, the movie adaptation, I was disappointed that it was just a couple of Alsatians playing the werewolves. But the spoiler, sorry, there's another werewolf. But the thing that from reading the lore, usually the idea was that they would do this demonic pact or whatever, and then their skin would split off and they would be the animal underneath, and that somehow they would turn back when the moon is no longer out or something. But
and to your point, Jeff, in this one they used a combination of things. I'm talking about Blish. He did have a scientific explanation, which is, speaking of vestigial, a gland called the pineal gland that for most people, like, we just evolved out of needing that, whatever hormones it produced, whatever chemicals, we just don't need that. But for werewolves, they are left over, like, genetic flotsam and jetsam, they're just left over from days gone by, but they're dying out eventually, right? But their pineal gland secretes a hormone or a chemical that allows their cells to can become transmogrified. Like, the cells themselves can change down to the point where the clothing, as long as you're not wearing like nylons or polyester, if you're wearing organic clothing, wool, cotton, it even affects the clothing. So the werewolf, that was always my question, is like werewolf, or for the Hulk, it was my question. He like grows 8 times.
He always wears
his
pants.
But he has his pants on, right? But with the werewolf, even the
practice.
clothes would change to adapt to becoming a wolf. And then they were able to do that. And then when they wanted to change back, or when they changed back, then their cells just kind of reconfigure. But he explained why. Well, then why silver? What does silver have to do with anything? And it's like, well, the element silver somehow messes with the chemical or whatever. Yeah. And then what about crosses? Why would they care about a cross? Well, if they're already superstitious, the lore of werewolves is that it's something supernatural. So if the werewolf was taught that growing up and they believe it affects werewolves, but if they don't believe it, like you could take a thing and bless it, like holy water, for example. If you have holy water, if the werewolf doesn't know it's holy water or didn't watch the priest bless it, it's not going to have any effect on them. But you shoot that mother with a silver bullet, it will kill them. But who carries around silver bullets? Nobody. But there's a lot of silver at stately New Cliff Manor. And they melt some of it down and make bullets to go after Jan the werewolf.
Well, we should mention also that this is not something Foote knows. This is why we have the handy Lundgren werewolf expert. So after he's been attacked by the big wolf, which Doris happens to be witness, which helps, Foote says, Jan's a werewolf, and everyone else is going, what are you talking about? But before too long, they are convinced that something happened, and so all of a sudden we get a couple of pages of exposition, I guess, but it's done pretty well. It's not, too much in your clunky or anything, where they're asking, what about this and what about that? And this is when Lundgren is explaining all the things that Steve just mentioned. And there's also aconite, which they mention as aconites, which is the wolf's bane, and apparently some was grown in Carolyn Newcliffe's greenhouse that set Jan off. And why the moon has the effect and all that, while they're busy melting silver down to make some bullets and go hunt the werewolf. So
she's like, I just thought it was pretty. Yeah, I don't know.
So they all get together, go out into the snowy, moonlit night into the woods to try to hunt this to Jan, this werewolf.
One might say it's the dead of winter.
The dead of winter.
They use the phrase "the dead of winter" in this.
Yes,
story.
they did, man. I was like, yes.
When I read that, I thought maybe that's where you got it.
Oh no!
Wow, the dead of winter.
Yeah, I think we should say that Foote doesn't. Doris shouldn't go. Because he's wondering, if what Jan's got planned for Doris, and so he wants to protect her, even though Doris doesn't seem to have liked Foot much at the beginning, but she seems to be coming around, I guess. But Doris is like, "No way, Jose! I'm going to go with you guys." So they all, and there's only a limited amount of rifles, and Steve, you were talking before about how Newcliffe was particularly worried about the barrels of his guns.
Yeah.
He's got all these guns, and he's making these pouring the silver from, I guess, the kitchen that they've melted down into these molds to kind of makeshift some bullets for his guns. And there's only a few he's got handy that he passes out to different people.
The millionaire is going to worry about his $150 gun, but he can't just replace.
Well, so they stalk out to look for Jan, and they do find him eventually. And they have Newcliffe has his dogs, and this is a pretty good description, because now, before, Foot seemed pretty sure of himself, and now we get the chance to see him kind of freak out a little bit out in the woods, like, what's that? Why are we're out here and we could be attacked? And when they are attacked, when they do confront, because they hear the dogs baying as they've kind of cornered the wolf in the woods, and then they all run over there, and then all hell breaks loose. And one of Newcliffe's main hunting dogs, Brucey, meets his maker, sadly. And you want to take it from there, Paul? For Steve, sorry, what goes?
I like to hear Paul talk too.
Yeah, that's true.
Just our guest, man. Keep going, man. You're our guest, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, Paul, I haven't let you talk much, but I guess what happens is they get some shots off, but they don't hit him, and they go back in the house. And Steve, you want to talk about the special order that Newcliffe makes?
Yeah, he calls the butler or somebody and says, get a hold of, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, like the Department of War or something, and get me some guns, get me some bullets, silver bullets, but not sterling. Sterling will mess up the rifling in my guns, so I don't want sterling.
Get them to me tomorrow.
That's the good stuff, and I want it tomorrow. And these were the days when you couldn't just get something tomorrow, right? And they're like, that's going to be really expensive. He's like, well, I'm paying for it. What are you worried about the cost? Just get me the stuff I asked for.
This is the same guy who's worried about his rifles getting ruined. Doesn't care about the cost of the shipping.
I think he had an affection for his rifles. I don't think it was money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out for his wife too. He had affection for his wife too, as it turns out.
Yeah. They reminded me of Thurston Howell and Lovey from Gilligan's Island. He was, Thurston, he loved his wife. Called her Lovey. I mean, who calls somebody Lovey if they don't love her, Well,
and it's repeatedly stated that Newcliffe's wife, Carolyn, is gorgeous, but kind of almost ethereal, or not, I wouldn't say not dumb by any stretch, but not really there. Just kind of pleasant.
Probably drunk and high on uppers, and Quaaludes.
But she is a crack shot.
Wife. Yeah, a trophy wife with a crack shot.
She was a
shot trophy wife.
She was the kind of trophy wife that was like, if this were the night, if this were much later and women were more liberated, I wouldn't have to be a trophy wife. I have skills of my own. I don't need this man.
But and of course, this was written in 1950, but they mention it's in the 60s, right? So it's slightly in the future.
Yeah. It's the near future science fiction horror. And they got most of the future right.
They definitely got the horror right, because they go back in, they can't find Jan. And
they set up a bunch of traps and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
they board, they kind of, I don't say board up the house, but they make it quite secure.
Yeah.
And Foot's having a restless night, tossing and turning. And then the next morning when he comes down to breakfast and the bullets arrive by helicopter, and the helicopter guy takes off, which, if I was someone there, I probably would have got on the helicopter and left by that stage.
I thought the same thing. Don't put the women, at the very least, don't put the women on the helicopter and get them out of there. We've already established, we think who the werewolf is.
The women and Foot, I think.
Yeah,
should have gotten.
Yeah,
but not Carolyn. I'd leave Carolyn there. She could take care of herself. The reason I mentioned the traps is it becomes important later. And we don't have to do the spoiler if we don't want to. We can, because it's kind of
We can lead
important.
up. I think we can lead up to
Yeah.
it.
But the
Yeah.
traps, at some point, they go out and check the traps, and they find, they find that Jan was almost trapped. He
Yeah.
cut
Some blood
himself.
on one of the traps.
Found
or
blood on
something.
one of the traps. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that is crucial information, as it turns out.
By the way,
right?
Blood on the Traps was the name of my hard metal band in college. I don't know if you guys knew that. But
Yes,
love-
I did.
love a
I was
running
in that
joke.
band.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I always
I
forget
love
that.
a running joke.
Blood-
Well, so the next morning, so the bullets come. They got a whole bunch of silver bullets now, so they're ready for to take Jan on, I guess.
yeah.
And everyone's going, "Where's Lundgren? Where's this werewolf expert? He hasn't come down yet. Doris, why don't you go see where he is?"
You asked about the night before, or they're trying to figure out where Lundgren is. There was this awesome description. This is where, like, he I've not read his science fiction stuff, but Blish, man, I don't scare easily, and so I have to really concentrate when I'm reading. If I'm like, okay, this is meant to scare me, so I need to concentrate. So I concentrated on that one, and I was like, that's really good, because he built up the suspense, and just he was counting. He could hear the footsteps, and he could hear them going room to room and creaking across the floor, and he's counting them. That's one. Okay, that's two. And then he's like, I have to be next. And nothing happens. And he's just restless, right? And yeah, the next day he gets up. They're like, where's Lundgren? He's like, did you guys hear that last night? And everybody's there except Lundgren. He's like, where's Lundgren? Somebody's like, I don't know. Well, he had one of the rifles. So you slept with
He's
one
probably
of those.
just sleeping in from the late night when we were out
Exactly.
searching.
So Doris, of course.
Then they hear I guess, and clunk.
Yeah, and she's
They
like
run
passed
up
out, or at least
passed out on the floor. They look in the door, and Lundgren.
And the way he
is-
described that gore
Yeah.
was super gory.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, the
like-
soft parts, the soft fleshy parts of the body, and his face had been eaten away.
Yes, and
Yes.
he stopped calling him a person the minute they looked at the bed. He's like, and where Lundgren had been sleeping, there was just a red mass of gore or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not. It wasn't like, and Lundgren was laying there, but he didn't have a face or entrails. It was just like, yeah, and he had been eaten down to the bone. And that description of the white bone is so accurate.
Yeah.
Like I used to think, like if you cut yourself or somebody gets cut down to the bone and you see the bone, or a compound fracture or something, I used to think it would look like, the bone from a leg of lamb or a pork chop or something, like,
Kind
kind
of
of
yellowed and brown. or
yellow.
whatever.
Yeah. But it is alabaster white. Is alabaster white?
One might say bone white.
It's
Bone
bone
white. Yeah,
There
bone
you go.
china white. Yes.
Good one. Good one. And one might say that. You don't even have to clean it up because it comes that way.
Well, I had a question for you guys who watched the movie recently. Is Peter Cushing supposed to be playing Lundgren in the movie? Does he?
Yes,
Is
and-
he
and
the
he's,
expert?
Well, sort of. I don't want to do the movie versus the story, but I could. But in the movie, Lundgren is an archaeologist with a penchant towards werewolfism. I guess it sounds better than being a psychiatrist or a
Well,
psychologist.
and this Blish in the story does take pains to establish that Lundgren and Jan Yarmakowski are friends, and
Yeah.
that Lundgren was suspecting something about Jan and didn't want to really confront him. Felt because obviously the werewolf is notorious in the movies and lore as a pitiable kind of state, right? They can't really control what's happening. And we're later here for that Jan liked or loved Lundgren. He was a good friend. He considered him a good friend, right? So
yeah.
And
but
he also enjoyed Lundgren. He found him.
Oh, I see what
But-
you mean. Yeah. Not as a meal, yeah.
But
with a nice Chianti, you mean?
so it turns out Jan did not kill his friend because they're
Somebody
like,
else
there's
in
no
the house.
way he got in here. We checked the traps. It's definitely out there because we saw his blood. The house is sealed up. Nobody's getting in or out.
And so,
So
we
who
cut
killed
to
Lundgren?
we cut to who killed Lundgren. So that's why all of a sudden we cut to this scene where Foot's got the gun. He's holding it on.
Yeah, suddenly he's got a
Everybody-
gun, and everybody's like, "Why do you have a gun? What are you doing?
And
Why
he's
you holding
pointing it
that
at
gun
him and said, "Okay, we're gonna figure this out."
up? Get in the line."
It wasn't Jan who got in here and killed Lundgren, so that means one of you killed Lundgren. I know it wasn't me because I was up,
So
losing my shit
it
all
sort of
night
turns
long.
into the thing.
It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
the
the
thing.
thing where,
It's like, I
you
know it
know-
wasn't me, and the only thing any of us can know for certain is whether or not it was us,
Mhm.
whether or not it was me.
And so it's like that scene in the thing where Kurt Russell's character McCready is okay. You guys we're gonna test the blood, but it's not drawn out like that because all of a sudden
It's
another
fast.
werewolf's in the room leaping at Foot, and Foot's kind of like, because I guess the realization of who it is strikes him dumb, basically, and he just can't do anything. But Newcliff's ready to roll
Yeah,
and
Newcliff,
beats
man.
the shit out of the werewolf.
Yeah.
Basically, he clubs it with what was it that he beat it with? Do you guys remember? It was he grabbed something and smacks.
Was it a
smacks
candlestick? I think it. Hang on,
Was
I got
it the
another guess.
silver candlestick again? I thought it was
No,
something
it
else.
was Mr. Plum with a lead pipe in the library.
and
look
Foot
it
just
up.
immediately starts crying, and it's not from fear. So, do we want to say who the werewolf was?
This is the werewolf break. Have you guessed who the werewolf is? Is it Paul Foot? Jan? Davina? Dr. Lundgren? Caroline? You have 30 seconds to give your answer. Made up your mind? Let's see if you're right.
Who wants to say who it was?
Dun dun dun.
Newcliff had to kill his own wife.
Yeah, and he's a
She-
basket case after that.
He's a complete basket case. Now, that's why the trap thing was. This was interesting. He said what had happened was she had cut herself on something, and he and she were working with the trap, and he accidentally got blood on her open wound, and from Jan. So
From Jan.
Jan's
So-
blood got into her bloodstream because they weren't following good hygiene practices, and so. What I took away from this book is always wash your hands,
Always wash your hands.
put a Band-Aid on the cut, follow good blood sanitation protocols.
Be careful you don't turn into a werewolf.
I feel like the climax was the murder mystery, Carolyn being the werewolf. But then, and you guys can tell me I'm wrong, you two plus you guys down below, then you get this sort of postscript from that particular climax. You
Right.
get
We get the idea that Foot has heard it secondhand from Doris. What happens because there's this big scene where
Yeah.
Doris and Jan comes to her door while she's sitting there, or her window, and she's just kind of dull by this point.
He's
and
like,
numb.
hey baby, you should come with me.
And
Leave these
he
jokers
seems-
behind.
Yeah. Well, he seems very sorry for
He did
what's
say,
happened.
kill me. I caused Lundgren and Carolyn to die. So kill me.
and she
she's
can't.
She's like, I'm not going to
She's-
kill you. You know I can't. You know I can't do that. And he's like, okay, then come with me. I'll make you a werewolf and we'll be werewolves together.
Yeah, he doesn't come out and say he's gonna make her a werewolf, but it's heavily implied, and she's kind of like, "What do you mean?" But anyway,
But then
and then
she's
all
going
of
to
a
do
sudden,
it. She takes the cross off of her neck,
Yeah.
lets it fall to the floor, and she's like, all right. And she's like, got to go with him. She's like, let's go do this.
well, did you get that? Did you get that impression? I kind of felt like she's torn, but she's also horrified, but what is she? Is it like the kind of vampirism thing where he's kind of got
That could be.
sort of
Like
her
she's-
in thrall and she's dropping it?
Look into
I
my
think
eyes.
you're probably right that she's thinking about it, maybe.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
of them. But
here's something I learned. I was doing a little bit of digging around on this story, and basically Blish kind of called this, or basically he wrote it as kind of a love letter to Dracula. So
Yeah.
maybe the idea of Jan, like doing the
Look
thing.
into my eyes.
That could
yeah.
be.
There's a lot of
Well, anyway,
Dracula in this
Foot.
story.
For all the making
Foot's
fun of
hiding in
Foot
the
that we
corner.
did, for all the making fun of him we did,
Yeah.
dude blew him away. Dude's like, too late, Jan. You're not getting the girl this time.
yeah, I guess reading it again, it sounds like maybe Jan really had no plan of Doris shooting him. Figured that she probably wouldn't, but he does seem legitimately sorry. I felt
Yeah.
for what happened to his friends. He didn't really want, but he also was tired, and he didn't see. Apparently, we get the impression he wasn't that interested in Doris. Of course, good. I guess that's good for him. A non-pervy werewolf that he didn't
A non-pervy
do
werewolf.
anything earlier, but now
That's going to be my
he's-
Halloween costume this year. Non-pervy werewolf.
Well, now he's tired of being alone, and he's we mentioned before that he's constantly been kind of hounded out of different places and chased out of. They don't. Things happen.
That's
Obviously,
good to do.
deaths happen, and they look askance at him, and they think eventually he's not welcome there anymore, and he has to move on and stuff. So he has the lonely werewolf life, and he's tired of being alone.
But his hair was perfect.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, though, you mentioned Dracula, and yeah, I did read that somewhere where this was sort of an homage to Dracula. And when I was reading it, before I knew that, I was thinking, wow, this reminds me of Matheson and I Am Legend, the way that it's sort of science fiction-y. That
kind of modernizing an old folklore sort of
it's
thing.
like
yeah.
it's like try explaining that, yes, there are vampires, or yes, there are werewolves, but it's not a supernatural thing. It's not like they're just creatures that just happen to exist. There's a scientific explanation for it. And I think that's probably a mid 19th century, mid 1900s, 20th century thing, right? Because science was conquering everything, and it's like, well, if we still want to have horror, we have to, it has to work with science.
Well, and the movies kind of transferred that way too, right? You had all the big giant bug movies and the radioactive monsters.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when they did have I was a teenage Frankenstein or a teenage werewolf, it was because of a mad scientist concoction. So they were definitely, so this
Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, I think this is a way for him to have his cake and eat it too. He was, probably he has his science fiction writer buddies to say, "You're writing a werewolf story? What?" And he's like, "I'm going to make it with a science fiction angle."
He's like, but hear me out.
Yep.
It's aliens. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. In this case,
The
it wasn't
first thing
aliens.
I'm going to do, I'm going to set it 10 years in the future.
Yeah,
The future.
but it's going to have a cocktail party just like we do now.
Yes.
I guess.
I say bring back cocktail parties. Like,
Well, I
I'd
think
love to
that-
sit around in a smoking jacket.
There you go.
I have a smoking
tight.
jacket now. I got a smoking jacket for Christmas.
Oh,
and
nice.
It is really something. I like
Did you
it.
really get a real honest to God smoking jacket?
I sure did. I'm gonna have to wear
I
it
hope
for
you
one of
wear
our
it in one of
videos.
your videos. in the
I
future.
will.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
I'll come up with a theme for that month just so he wears it through the whole month.
yeah, there you go.
Next month is what Holmes is where the heart is, Sherlock Holmes. So you could do some kind of Sherlock Holmes story
Oh,
or
that's true.
pastiche.
That's
but
true.
Give me a pipe.
And you guys don't like to jump into most of those.
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind. We did Sumerian September, and it was like.
And you did No Event November. You created your own.
Then we did No Event November because Sumerian September followed by Spooky Season. We were just like, whew, I want to read something I want to read.
It gets overwhelming. Well, I think the story. Well, you could say maybe it's overwritten a little bit here and there. With he uses less common words when a more common one would do, like somnambulist instead of like a sleepwalker.
He's not
or
the only
whatever.
one. I saw that word in another story. I forget which one, but he's not the only one that used somnambulism. And I was like, I had to look it up. That's the only reason I knew what it meant in this story. See,
Well,
I'm
you know, he
smarter
wants to educate and edify his readers, I guess.
BookTube will make
Yes.
you smarter. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
But I think it's a pretty cool and successful modernization. It does feel contemporary enough that the werewolf in that setting, even though it's in a remote house in the woods in this spooky winter night, it feels modernistic enough to give it a freshness. I think, especially at the time, it must have seemed pretty fresh.
That's all well and good, Jeff. And those words are well taken. But more importantly, out of 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, what do you give this one?
I give this a 3.5. I like this story as soon as I read it way back in the day in that this beat up old werewolf book, and I still think it holds up well. Now, modern readers might find some stuff a little, outdated in some cases, but I think mostly it avoids a lot of those kind of pitfalls and is fairly readable today and suspenseful in parts and interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I
what do you
agree.
guys
I go with a 3.25. I agree. It was great to get to see a werewolf story that's not, the Universal Pictures version of the werewolf.
Not in a gothic castle or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I'd like those too, but it was pretty cool to get introduced to werewolf lore in that way.
Yeah.
And it reminded me a lot of I Am Legend, but a much shorter, obviously much shorter version, a noveletta as opposed to a novel. But yeah, I liked it. I really, is a lot of fun.
A little less depressing. Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
That's
My thing is I think you really you have to make an agreement when you're reading older stuff that don't try to put it under a modern microscope.
Yeah.
On
100%
so many
agree.
different levels. On that, I give it a 3.27.
Oh, a little bit more than me, less than Jeff. You came right in between there. Yeah.
But high compared to a lot of what you enjoyed it. That means because you guys are strict graders, I've noticed. So I'm like, what? You gave that a 3? That's really good.
That's the problem with our rating system. Is like sometimes a story that I really like, I give it like a 2. It's like
it's completely arbitrary. The numbers don't mean anything, and we make everything up. I may get fired from YouTube. We're going to do House on the Borderlands, and I don't want to give anything away, but I might get fired for my take on it.
No, I think that's fair. I think, when Chris at Liminal Spaces raved about the Willows and then Tim at Secret Fire Books.
Yes.
I liked it. But although I know you guys would probably tend to agree more with Chris than Tim on that particular story.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Well, I also want to say I like how you guys use the 4-star rating system. Everyone uses Goodreads uses 5, and I'm like, what's this 5 junk? I grew up on the Leonard Maltin movie book, and it was 4 stars, baby. But I use halves. I like the 0.2769, precise ratings there. So anyway, I'm glad that the story wasn't a bust for you. And I was reading it again, going, I hope these guys like this one. It is a little, highfalutin language in here, which is kind of maybe unnecessary. But it's also like pretty poetic.
Falutin. I'm not highfalutin, but I am falutin. I mean, I got a little bit of falut.
No, I know you're quite falutin.
It's that low falutin.
I'm moderately faluted. All right. Well, on that note, maybe we should close the cover on this issue of Check Your Shelf. Also, Jeff, again, thanks for coming on the show.
Go to his channel.
Check it out. I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
I'm Jeff.
And the next time you're looking for something to read,
Check Your Shelf.
sometimes Steve will just ramble, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, we got to get back to this," and then his rambling is so entertaining, I just leave it in there.
Well, I like how Steve always says, "Well, you can cut this part out," and then you never do. It's always
like, "Oh sure, I got it." Yeah, absolutely.